So, um, I guess I can start this by telling a story about something that happened and where I got this idea from. I was at an event where the people were supposed to be learning things and participating. You know how it is. Anytime you go to something like that, then a lot of folks, they really don't want to be there. They think of other things that they can do to occupy their time. So I was at this event, and I was in a group of people, and they were very negative about the experience. Now I'll tell you that the thing that we were at was not the way that it usually is. So it wasn't, the quality wasn't good. But what I say about things like that is that when you go into it, you have to be intentional. You have to intentionally try to have fun and intentionally learn about what you're doing. So I was in this group. They were being negative about the situation and just not paying attention, being negative about everything. Nothing was good. So I'm usually a positive type person. I usually am good at putting my best foot forward and doing the best that I can and emitting some positivity around me. But I will tell you that I started to feel just like them as the days progressed. And that's when I thought about it, because I noticed myself doing it. And I thought about, why does your butter taste like onions? All right, so this is what it is. Now, if any of you know about butter, if you put butter in the refrigerator and you didn't close the package good enough, or you put it in there with an onion, what usually happens is that the butter will taste like onions the longer it stays in there with the open onion. So that applies to people too. And that's a scientific principle. So let's go and look at that right quick. So to understand this, there's two things you need to know. One is the word osmosis, and the other is dispersion. Yeah, that's it. So what happens to butter and onions could be osmosis or dispersion. And what that is when something of a greater concentration moves through another thing to something of a lesser concentration. So it's kind of like when you take food coloring and you put it in water. Now that would be something like dispersion. But any way you put it, is one attitude, one thing going to something of a lesser attitude. So that's what happened to me when I was at this thing. I was the lesser, they were more. It was more of them than me. And their attitude started to flow toward me. So, I got some notes about this, so y'all look at this. You are the butter in your situation, and where you are is like the onions. And it has to do with your mind. The mind is terribly weak, but terribly strong at the same time. And the weakness of the mind is that it can be easily subverted. Your mind can be changed easily with enough influence. For example, kids turn into kids you've never seen before. Women turn into hateful, nasty people that they know they are not. Men turn into irresponsible people. They turn into mean and hateful people because they are around people that make their butter taste like onions. Osmosis happens to them, and it slowly changes who they are. But you ever thought about this? If that did happen, how come the onion never tastes like the butter? You know what I mean? So onion is strong. That's the things around you. Butter makes everything taste better, but it can take on the characteristics of whatever it's around. And that's you. So, you know that old saying, birds of a feather flock together? So the thing about that is that's something my dad used to tell me all the time. So when one person is always keeping company with a group of people that's a certain way, eventually that one person will transform into that group of people. That's just how it works. So you have to be careful about what birds you flock with, because you will slowly transform into them. And the sad thing about it is it's a character type thing. So your character slowly changes one piece at a time, and you never notice it. And the people that love you and they see you, they notice it. They see it. But you don't see it. And it happens oh so slowly. So with that, it's important that when you choose the people to be around, now watch how this connects. It all kind of works together. You choose the people that you want to be around. You choose the people that's going to be your onions. Here's an example. I have a friend who wants to learn investing. So you know what he did? He met people and he reached out to people who were investors, and he became friends with those people. They flavored his butter with investment advice. So now he becomes what he wants to be. You have to do the same thing. It's important to go ahead and figure out what type of person you want to be. Figure out what you want to do and be intentional about the people that you associate with. Find people that exemplify the things that you want to be. If you want to be a person that likes sports and you don't really care for sports, make friends with people who like sports. You know, if you want to be an intellectual, make friends with those people. Talk about intellectual things. You have to be intentional about it. You just can't hope that something happens, because when you hope that things happen, then you do not guide the ship. The ship drives itself, and you are just open to wherever the wind blows you. So be intentional about it. You know, I say it's like, now I've never been actual camping, but I researched it and read about it. And check this out. This is what happens. When people go camping and they set up their tents, they pick a certain spot. And when they pick that spot, they have to check it, make sure all the sticks and the rocks are out the way, make sure that the ground is level and that everything is good. So once they do that, then they have something called a foundation or map or something, I don't know, but they lay that out. That's the foundation. Then they put the tent together and stake it down and anchor it to the location that they want it to be in. So what all that means is that when people pitch tents in a certain place, they are very intentional about where they put them. So likewise, you have to be intentional, and I have to be intentional about where I pitch my tent. If I want to be a certain person, then I pitch my tent by those people. So I guess at the end of all this, it's important to, one, know yourself. If you know you're easily influenced, then you can control how you are influenced. It's impossible. It's hard to change the fact that your mind is susceptible to certain things. That is difficult. But what you can do is make it susceptible to the things you want it to be susceptible to. So You control how your butter tastes. If you don't want it to taste like onions, don't put it by onions. Make sure it's covered up, protect it. And that's what we need to do for ourselves. So, as always, I love you and God loves you. Everybody, have a blessed day.